What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. We had the big game this weekend, Chelsea versus Man United at Old Trafford. Cole Palmer came through, and Man United had to stop him from doing Cole Palmer things and embarrassing the shit out of us. Also, we'll talk about Ten Hag being gone. He was gone after the last podcast. We have an interim Ruud van Nistelrooy, club legend, and we have Ruben Almiron coming in. So I'll tell you how it feels to have three coaches in 1 week. I'll let you know how that feels. We'll talk about Southampton getting their first win. He's happy about that. I'm happy about it. Shit, I'm not a hater. You know what I mean? And Armstrong, my man, finally did it. Is that the right Armstrong or is it the other Armstrong? Tell me it's the right.
The other one's gone. He's in the MLS with Vancouver now. We only got one Armstrong left.
Oh, so that's the right one that I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that normally doesn't do it in the Prem, but he got them to win the game to qualify for the Premier League, and now it helped them win their first game. So we'll talk about that. We'll clown Arsenal hard. We'll compliment Spurs while Martin ain't here. We'll talk about the failures of Man City this week and the triumph of Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. Like, what the hell, fam? And their coach. This is how bad Spurs are. That when this coach was at Nottingham Forest was with Spurs, he got fired and had to leave the league. And then he comes back with a bottom of it. He had to save this team from relegation. And now they're in a Spurs place in the table. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. And we got Lee Hudson, stand-up comic and Southampton fan. And I know he feels good because Southampton won. How you feeling, baby?
Good. I'm good. You brought an Everton fan on the podcast last weekend and we beat them. We've got Wolves next. If you could find a Wolves fan to jump on today, that would be great. And then we can see if this thing, this run keeps working.
This is a superstition thing. Hold on, let me see what I can do. Who is it? Wolves? All right, I don't want to call it the wrong person. I sent. Let's see if we can make something happen for you.
But yeah, man, it felt good to get that done. It's crazy that this far in, we were one of three teams who didn't have a win. And there's two that still don't, which is, that blows my mind. But I'm just glad we're not one of them anymore. We got to try and, keep it going now.
Yeah. One thing they did say about Sean Dyche, it took him in his first season with Burnley 11 games to get his first win, and Burnley stayed in the league for a minute. So just because you took so long to win and you're at the top of the bottom or the middle of the bottom, it doesn't mean you're going to get relegated. This is not set in stone yet. You got plenty of games left. So that's the good news. But speaking of the top of the top, let's just talk about what that Liverpool do. And they had an amazing game this weekend versus Brighton Hove. And Brighton Hove, they've been trying to assert themselves recently and they have a different philosophy. Like coming into the season, they spent money as opposed to like buying obscure players and building them up. They got a new coach and they've decided to say, hey, let's attack the top of the table. And they've actually done well. They've got some scouts. They beat us. And I can't remember any of the other successful wins, but they've got points, and they're in the top half of the table. And did they play Liverpool in the Carabao Cup midweek?
Yeah, literally double header.
So they went back to back, which is tough for Liverpool to do, or any team to beat a Premier League team twice in a week, because you get the feel for what they're going to do. And then this game was at Anfield, and all I can remember is Brighton making themselves at home at Anfield, especially in the first half. It was just like Oh, we don't hear none of that noise, none of that Liverpool, Liverpool, none of that, none of that. You could sing that. You alone. You are alone. This is our shit. Like they really pulled up aggressively, and they actually got the first goal of the game. But Onslaught and his crew, and now in the beginning of the season, Onslaught has been using one set of players, and we always know that he had this depth and these other players on the bench, and it's like, man, it's taking a long time to get to them. But then he started to get to them. Like Gakpo started, Darwin Núñez was out there, and he didn't score, but he looked good. His bad games look good because you know how much football has changed so much. Like they used to give people props for hitting the post. Like he didn't score, but if you hit the post, now the world shits on Darwin Núñez for hitting the post. That used to be like the sign of a good striker. And there was one play in particular, I remember this game, where he discarded two Brighton Hove players and took the ball up the pitch. And I think he did get a shot on goal, but it was blocked. And he had some other plays in this game. But I don't even really want to talk about the game. I just want to talk about Liverpool being number one at the top of the Premier League table with a brand new coach. And let's give Brighton props too. Their coach is new too, because this is his first season, right? These are his first,
Yeah.
So I do want to talk to you about that. It's impressive what Slot did or has done. I'm kind of not as impressed as everybody else because everybody thinks that it's going to be tough for a new coach. But I figure if you're a decent coach from the Dutch league and you have a team, like a set team, like he's stacked. He's got starters and he's got a depth on the bench that can replace the starters. And some of those bench guys can be starters. There's not any drop off in a lot of the places. There's there's no replacements for Salah, but just even having a Salah who stays fit and his goal today or yesterday, this weekend, just class. Like there's going to be a moment when in every game where Salah's going to get to show his class. And if the game is close, then Liverpool is going to win that game. So what do you think of Brighton and where they at and Liverpool and where they at?
I mean, what Liverpool did right is they hired a successful coach from the Dutch league, but they didn't let him bring any of his favorite players from that Dutch team with him, because that's the mistake.
but can I say something to that? There are Dutch players. There's nothing, but Liverpool has more Dutch players than Man United.
So, yeah, but he didn't bring any of them with him.
Yeah, but they all play together with the Man United Dutch players on the same Dutch team. So let me just interject that. Son, you win one game.
But I've been really impressed with Liverpool, just the consistency that Slot's brought already early on to them, and let's not forget that they've got injuries as well. Alisson's out, and he's such a key player for them, and Keller has done so well in the games he stepped in for. They're missing Jota as well, who gives him an extra clinical edge when he plays, and then there's some more sort of squad players, Harvey Elliott and Connor Bradley, people who are out who wouldn't necessarily be starters but would add something. So yeah, he's done well with that, and just like I say, the consistency and the getting his style of play, because obviously, like I say, there's some similarities to what Klopp did, and then there's some differences. Converting Gravenberch into a sort of a deeper midfielder, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, really impressed with them, and yeah, they had to show some character in that game against Brighton, because great finish from Kadioglu for Brighton with that goal as well. Like that was an arrow into the corner. And yeah, Brighton are awkward. We've seen that against so many teams this season. United felt that when they played them. Spurs, when Brighton came and turned that game around against them. Brighton are a tough game for anyone. So to go a goal down against them and then turn it around and show some character as well. So yeah, I mean, if you ask me if I expected Liverpool to be top after 10 games, I wouldn't have said that. But that they've stayed consistent. That's why they are where they are.
Yeah, and I just figured, like you said, a decent coach who's won some shit comes in to this team, and I trust Liverpool's due diligence. Like, I figured they looked around and did kind of find the best person. And he just tweaked it a little bit. So let's be more defensive, which they haven't given up a lot of goals. They haven't scored as much, I guess, as they normally would have, but it's still pretty good scoring ratio. And yeah, it's like they're doing their thing. And Brighton Hove, let me see where Brighton Hove is in the table, because they're 8th.
They're doing okay. They're 8th, yeah.
Yeah, and they got, is it 14 points? Yeah, they got 14 points. So
16.
16. All right, need to make
Yeah, they're
these
only 2
numbers
points
bigger.
off the 2 points off the Champions League spots, which after 10 games is pretty good going.
Yeah, and yeah, I just on Salah's goal. I was like, he made Estupiñán look estupido. Like, just on that goal, just the dumb pun. I had to get that in. I couldn't resist. My bad. My fault. I'm sorry, put you through that. But yeah, man, that's a typical Salah goal, Liverpool character. Nobody ever questions it, win or lose, and that's what you want to see. So now, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I just want to use the ammo of saying Slot is a brand new coach. He's coached the same amount of games in the Premier League as, what's the name of this Brighton Hove? Is it? I kind of forgot.
Hurtzler.
He came in this year, right?
Yeah, in the summer from St. Pauli. He just got them promoted from the second division to the Bundesliga.
Right. I should wait to ask this question, but let me ask it now. So one of them, they're both new coaches. One of them at the top of the league. I know it's only 10 games or 11 games, right? And one is 8th. How many points out of the Champions League spots? 2?
2 points, yeah.
2 points. And it's like, one thing that these two teams have in common is their setup and their structure and their board. We know Brighton Hove handles transitions well, and they're set up well. They bring players out and bring players in really well. So a coach who steps in there is pretty much, they just have to coach. Same thing with Liverpool. So I guess that's part of the hard part. So I was going to ask you, is Man United getting Amorim going to be, why should it be difficult if these guys are having a decent go at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think both the Liverpool and Brighton situations are slightly different because obviously Hurtzler comes in after De Zerbi, who he came in fairly quickly after Potter, whereas Slot's following like a legacy manager in Klopp at Liverpool, and they've both done well, even though they've had different circumstances, these guys. So I think it's that both clubs have got, even though Brighton had gone through managers, their managers were always leaving because they did well. They were never firing someone because they did badly.
Right.
And Klopp left Liverpool not because he got fired, whereas United are bringing a new manager in because they fired someone because things aren't right. And I don't think United have had that stability off the pitch. Obviously the new setup with Ineos is going to, I think they want to be like those clubs.
Right.
Although Liverpool have had some stuff going on at boardroom level, they've had the same owners, but they've had a change of like director of football, and they've had some stuff going on there. But yeah, I think Amorim, it could work. I like what he's done at Sporting. He's taken them from a difficult position when he joined because they were way behind Porto and Benfica, and he made them, the top dog in Portugal, which is, that's not easy to do.
And that's what, can I just jump in on that? That's what I like about him the most. Like, when he went to be the manager of Lisbon hadn't won the league in 19 years. So it was tougher. He didn't go to one of the top teams. He went to a top team, but not at their best period, and made them into the top team. So he did it probably with less finances and stuff like that. So I think it was a harder thing to do. Even when Ten Hag was at Ajax, I feel like Ajax was always kind of near the top and had more money than everybody else. So I think if you want to, there's so much similarities between the two coaches. I'm trying to just find something that makes Amarin a little bit better, just so I can start
Yeah.
liking him more or believing in him more, because I'm not trying to even really believe in him right now. I'm just trying to, like, let's see what he does. I hope he does great, you know?
Yeah, although like I don't want to discredit what Ten Hag did in Europe with Ajax, because Ajax had struggled. Like Ajax obviously historically had been a big club in Europe. Like in the 90s, they were, under Van Gaal, they were going deep into the Champions League, winning the Champions League. But then for years they'd gone out of that. They were always obviously a force within the Dutch league. But that, those European runs under Ten Hag were something different.
Right.
And so that's he kind of did do a revival job in Europe for them. Obviously, they were, like I said, always a dominant side in the Netherlands. So, but I think the Amorim thing, it's he's his own manager. He's a different guy. So it would just be interesting to see, because I mean there's also some similarities with Ten Hag in that I've heard Amorim is he's warm with the players, but he's strict if anyone steps out of line. And I think Ten Hag was trying to be like that. I don't know if he did it in the right way, because it seems that he upset people. So I think that's that fine balance if you're a Premier League manager, especially at a club with big players and big egos, is that you need to discipline and make sure those players know who's the boss, but also you need to get them on your side as well. And that must be probably the biggest challenge of that job, is the man management side of it. And can you get that right? Because, I think, you could have the tactical knowledge, but if the players aren't buying into you as a person, then it's going to be hard to get those bits across and to develop that team mentality and the characteristics and the intensity and the resilience as a group, if you haven't got the right person bringing it all together as a personality kind of thing. So I mean, Amorim, I think there's what he's done shows that he can do it tactically, and that in Portugal he can bring a group together. He can bring a group together in his first language. He can bring a group together in his country. It's like, can he do it in a second language? His English is perfect, by the way. But can he do it in a second language in a different culture?
Way better than Unai Emery's English, which seems to be getting worse every interview.
Good evening.
Right? But he still, it's hilarious. But he still gets through to his players. So I got to give, except today against Spurs, he didn't get nothing through. Yeah.
But there's all these variables. Like I say, he's in a new country. He's at a club where it is a goldfish bowl. The expectations are high. There's all these big egos. So that'll be the challenge for him. And that, I don't know. I can't say whether or not he can handle that until we see it, until we see the proof. So, I mean, I hope for United fans' sake that he can, because, United shouldn't be where they are in the table right now. I'm not saying you deserve to be, winning the league, but I mean, to not even be sort of really up in that top 6 and, top 4 kind of place, then that's not where United should be. So he's got a big challenge on his hands.
Right. And this almost makes me want to get into Man United territory before we even get there. But it's going to take a minute because we're way down at the bottom of the table. So, but I'll hold off. But I'm like, damn, I hope I remember these talking points when we get there. But we'll go to, kudos to Liverpool and Brighton, hope for where they're at in the table, and they've both done well with new coaches. One just way better than the other, but as expected. And but it's a long season, and we'll see what's up. Number 2 in the table is Man City, and guess who lost this weekend? Man City. And guess who they lost to? Bournemouth. And guess what Bournemouth does? They cause problems to top teams, and it's not a game anymore. You could say, hey, maybe they beat Arsenal because Arsenal players aren't disciplined, and one of the players got a red card. But no, they tore Arsenal apart, and and you could tell, even though they were a man up, there was something about them. Then last week, I think they played Villa, top 4 team, and they tied with them to show them. I think that game was at Villa, right? Yeah, at Villa. So you get a draw at Villa. You're like, all right. And then the Man City and top team, the team to beat. And hey, Man City played a game midweek, which they lost in the Carabao Cup, and they got a lot of injuries, and even the back four that Pep put out this week, he said that these guys are injured, but they're playing, you know, and there's one player who's been stepping up a little bit, so I want to give him his props. Let me go to the lineup because he's having a tough time over there at Man City. But let me see, dude. Let me press Nunes. That's not what I meant to press. What's his name? What's his
Mateus
name?
Nunes.
Mateus Nunes. Yeah, and he's playing on the left too. So he's been doing his thing. So props to him. But I guess Pep wasn't bullshitting about the team being injured. And one of the players from Bournemouth that I've been looking at and seeing full matches or highlights is Semenyo. And he started the season mad strong. And then for like the last two games, they moved him from the right to the left, which kind of dulled his effectiveness. But in this game, they put him back on the right, and he will murder you on the right. And he don't care. And he created so many chances. He looked more like a Man City player than some of the Man City players today. Like, just he glides, bro. Like once he dips this way and decides to go that way, you ain't catching up to him. And he's just a bunch of problems for everybody. And I just want
Apparently,
to.
Liverpool have Semenyo eyed as like a potential Salah replacement. Not saying he's on Salah's level,
Oh, that's a good call.
but he's that left-footed,
Mm-hmm.
right-sided player that's going to cut in and do things. And apparently, he's on their watch list.
Yeah, he should be, because he's that type of animal. And it's funny that we're going down the table and talking about we're going team by team, like number one, which was Liverpool, and number two, Man City. But we're talking about the number two and the number three teams in the no, my bad mistake. But Bournemouth is close to the top. But yeah, that's a good call by Liverpool to identify Semenyo like that, because he does look mad dangerous. And they do need a replacement for Salah. And even watching this game, he's just getting better and better, bolder and bolder, more confidence. He's a pretty dangerous dude. What do you think of Man City dropping points, just the way they played all season, and the injuries, and just overall? Is this
I mean, all I
rope-a-dope
can.
again? Is this Man City rope-a-dope again? Or is it
I
the
mean,
real defeat?
it could be. We're still early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say though to Tottenham and to Bournemouth after beating Spurs this week is you're welcome for Southampton for softening them up last Saturday and showing everyone that they were human. But I mean, Pep gets no sympathy from me. I look at that starting lineup, and there's still a bunch of players that you paid so much money for. They're missing players who are of importance, but they still had like Doku coming off the bench. So it's like, how bad is it really? Come on.
How bad is it? They're missing a Ballon d'Or player. The first
when I, when I,
Premier League Ballon d'Or player since Ronaldo.
when I went up to watch the game
Mm-hmm.
last week, like I parked not far from the stadium, and when I was walking from where I parked to the stadium to watch the game, I had to walk past they called it the Etihad campus, which is where the academy and the first team train, and there's the academy stadium and stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And this place was huge, this whole campus. So it's like, if boo-hoo, if you have to use the kids that you've produced in this monstrous academy setup, then that's what it's there for. So yeah, let's use those kids that you spent all that money on, building this palatial training ground to produce them. That's
If
what
I'm
it's
a
there for.
kid at a Man City Academy complex, do I ever want to go home? Like, it's like staying at the W on a road trip and then coming home to like wherever you live. It's just gonna pale in comparison. You're definitely gonna complain to your parents You know what I mean? I was like, it's the mom and dad. I'm just gonna go sleep at the academy. I don't want to hear this. This is what you have for dinner. You know what they made for dinner at the goddamn academy, mom? And this is what you know. I'm out.
I mean,
I'm gonna go spend Christmas with Gundogan.
I mean, they probably do have beds there. It's you know, is that crazy there? But I mean, I'm just looking at this City lineup right now because obviously, you know, academy wise, you had Foden in the starting lineup, but the bench was pretty heavy. Jacob Wright, Nico O'Reilly, James McAtee, uh, um, who's the other? Jamal Simpson-Pusey, who played in the game against Spurs midweek, and Rico Lewis was there as well. So yeah, the bench was pretty heavy with academy guys. But it's like, you know,
Proven injury.
Yeah, if you're making these players, it's, you know, it's time to see if they're good enough.
Right. And then they have a big game coming up midweek. So, and Pep decided to just not just ditch out of the Carabao Cup, but just like not risk injuries. So, and like we've won the Carabao Cup. We got to focus on the Champions League and the league, save some of the players. They didn't start Doku today, but when he came on, he's mad effective, which makes you think, why didn't he start him sooner? But then, you know, they got the big Champions League game coming up this midweek. So, yeah.
There's
So
going to be a lot of eyes on that game for numerous reasons now.
Yeah, you know, I'm watching that game for my reasons. Yeah.
You're going to be looking at that sporting 3-4-3 system, looking at, you know, who's gonna go in where.
100%. Like, how does this thing work? How does this mathematics equal wins? Let me see this for sure. But yeah, Bournemouth, they're doing great. Another win, more points for like a traditional bottom of the table team. They just came up from relegation how long ago?
It's been a few seasons now.
This is like their second stint in like, how long were they out? Like a season?
It was only a season or two. Yeah, Scott. I think was it Scott Parker who brought them back up?
Yeah, and then they went back down.
Yeah.
Then they fired him, and then
because after he got smashed like 8-0 at Liverpool or whatever it was, 8 or 9-0. Yeah, I mean, Iraola's done such a good job there because he was one as well. He had a really slow start last season when he took over. Like they lost a lot of games early on last season, and then all of a sudden his style of play, his system just clicked. And you know, it's really impressive in this game that they didn't just park the bus against City. You know, they were in their faces, they were aggressive, and yeah, just, you know, the dangerous players they've got. Evan Nilsson looks like he's settled into the Premier League now.
Oh, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's
scored a few goals. Yeah, and like you say, Semenyo, Tavernier as well is a really good player who causes all sorts of problems. So yeah, they've got some really good players, and I mean, you pointed out they drew with Villa last week, and the week before that they beat Arsenal at home as well. So they're just taking scalps right now. Yeah. They're you know, they're taking no prisoners. They're just, you know, leaving a trail of bodies out there. So
like,
you know, fair play to them. They're getting there. It's yeah, been great for them that they're, you know, putting that consistency together. I'm just trying to have a look who.
And let me just jump in while you're looking for that. You're talking about like when their system kicked in, like last year. One of those games it kicked in against was our team, Man United, and Ten Hag, and they beat us. And it's like you're not supposed to get beat by Bournemouth, but we did, and that was one of the earlier last season nails in the coffin.
I mean, their next two games are away to Brentford and home to Brighton. So those will be interesting because they're sort of like the battle of these, you know, these well-ran clubs who've come up from, you know, the Championship in the last few seasons and established themselves in the Premier League. Right. So those will be tough games for them. You know, we talk about the run they've been on, you know, beating City, beating Arsenal, but like, you know, this is the Premier League. So like, you know, you go against Brentford away, you know, they're going to shell you with set pieces. You know, they're going to start fast. You know, and Bumo is going to be causing problems. Visser as well.
Boomer you to death.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, that's the competitiveness of the Premier League. You come off the back of these run of fixtures playing against three teams who are all in the Champions League this season, but you don't get to rest. You don't get easier games. You know, you get Brentford and then you get Brighton, who are, you know, who are both going to cause you problems. Has the connection dropped out? Let's see if Ian comes back in. Might have to edit this bit out. It's just me right now.
You there?
There we go.
Is it
I was
your
just saying
Wi-Fi or mine?
I think mine was okay. We might have to
It might be mine. Yeah.
edit. Might have to edit that little bit out.
Yeah. Yeah.
The recording sign's still on, so we're still good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll have to watch it. Yeah. See what happens. Speaking of surprises, well, it's two things. So Nottingham Forest is third. They have 19 points. Super impressive. What's the name? Nuno. What's it? What's the name of the coach again? What?
Nuno Espirito Santo.
Espirito Santos, who failed, like I said in the beginning. He was successful at Wolves, brought to a whole Portuguese team there, then left Wolves, went to Spurs. Spurs will make anybody fail. That's just what they do. They'll make you look good. He started out good, very defensive, and it just wasn't cutting it. Later on, people could figure it out, beat them. Then, is that when he left and went to the Middle East? And I think he won there.
Yeah, with Al Ittihad.
Yeah, with Al Ittihad. And then you just thought, all right, this. Then he left Al Ittihad. They got into some type of beef. And then Nottingham Forest needed a coach. And his team is perfect for him because he likes the defensive setup and the counter. And but the counter is speedy and got mad firepower. And like players from Man United, Chelsea, like from top teams. You got Wood, who's like born to be a counter player. He used to play with Burnley, right? And so, and I don't know what, like, the founder of youth thing potion he's taken, but he's a third probably leading scorer in the league right now. He scored again this weekend, so that's helping him. And he's keeping a perfectly healthy, strong-bodied, young. I think he's Nigerian player. Omwani on the bench. Omwani's not bad. He's a good. He can score. He might have 8-2 if he was out there. So Nottingham Forest is doing good, and Nuno is doing good. And they played West Ham, thrashed them 3-0. And West Ham deserves this because last week West Ham got one of the most dubious penalty calls in Premier League history, even before the Premier League, the first division combined, and they won. And our coach, Ten Hag, got fired. But if you're a West Ham fan, you had to know deep down, or even subconsciously, that win was full of red flags, straight up dubious, and that you can't count on this coach and the system and these players like continuing, and they didn't. And the reason why I like to see West Ham fail is because I like to see, if I could just get a picture of David Moyes every week with that smile on his face. You know what I'm saying? Going, you wanted to get rid of me? That would make me happier. You know, just to see David Moyes wherever he's at, checking out the West Ham score of the week and just having a party. You know what I'm saying? Popping bottles or whatever he does at his age to have fun. And so you guys, you fans of West Ham, you asked to get a man fired, or you kind of talked him out of your club, trashed him out of your club, and now you got this Lopetegui who has credits, but he just ain't doing it. He's lost this locker room before he even got it. That's rare when you lose a locker room and that you didn't have. I guess I'm just shitting on him because West Ham is not responsible, but you're going to correlate Ten Hag going with them because that was the game. And that game last week was Firegate. You know, somebody's going to get fired, the loser of the match. And we got our coach fired. But Lopetegui, based on your record, you shouldn't be there either. But I'm not trying to get a coach fired. But what do you think of like how West Ham is not doing and how Nottingham Forest is doing?
I mean, West Ham is such a weird one because like they've won the occasional game enough to not be like down there in the fight right now. But I mean, when they lose, they like it's like the players down tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember that game that a few weeks back when Chelsea just ran through them when Nicholas Jackson was just getting the ball on the halfway line and just running through the whole defense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the whole thing just looks like it's a disaster, really. You know, they picked up a win against Ipswich, who, you know, we can see they're now struggling, and they got the dodgy call against you guys to get that winner. And I mean, yeah, it's just it looks like such a mishmash of players as well. It doesn't even look like any of the players that they've bought were bought with like a system or a style of play in mind as well. Because like he got backed when he came in, Lopetegui as well. Like they signed Kilman from Wolves for a big fee. They signed Jean-Claire Todibo, who you guys wanted him, but you weren't allowed to sign him because he was at the other Ineos control club.
Thank God, based on the results over there now. I'm glad for that rule.
So yeah, I mean, these guys are at the back and they're shipping goals. You know, they signed Wan-Bissaka from you guys. He wasn't cheap. They signed Somerville from Leeds. You know, Carlos Soler as well. You know, they got these guys. They signed. I mean, where the hell is Nicholas Füllkrug? You know,
Injured.
that guy looked.
He's
that
old.
guy was. He was a menace for Dortmund, and he was a menace for Germany. And then he just, you know, he goes to West Ham, and now when he has played, he's played like he looks now. You know, because he looks like he should be playing pickup five-a-side down at your local rec center. But he always, you know, that's how he looked. But he always played like a quality, like a top flight footballer when you saw him for Dortmund, when you saw him for Germany. And then I think Dortmund sold West Ham like a body double or something. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously, he's not even contributing right now. And that, like you said, having to dust off Mikel Antonio again. You know, Mikel Antonio always looks like he doesn't want to play football anymore, but they're like, we need you to, man. You need to go out there. And yeah, it's just such a weird collection of players thrown together who just they just don't look like they have any togetherness, any spirit kind of thing.
Do you think Lopetegui has a chance? Like, how much more losing? Like, say he loses again by the next international break. Like, what happens? He stays?
I don't know. It depends who they think they can get. You know, if they think they can go and get, you know, Potter or someone, maybe that could be the answer. Get Moyes back. Who knows? But I mean, you know, I'm hoping they keep him, just for you know, because there could be another team down there to fight with us.
Right.
But you know, I mean, I'm shitting on West Ham now. We play them on Boxing Day at home, and I'm going to that game, so it's written in the stars now that West Ham are going to trash us and ruin my Christmas. Füllkrug's going to score a hat trick.
Hilarious.
But I mean, yeah, they look like they're in real trouble. And you know, on the flip side, Forest, just they're a team who look together. you know, they're the opposite of West Ham. You know, they haven't got many like stars in that team, but they're all looking like they're playing for each other and that they enjoy playing for each other and playing for the manager. You know, they've got some real gems in there that they've found. You know, the two centre backs, you know, Milenkovic, who they signed from Fiorentina, looks a really good buy, powerful in the air, good defender. Murillo, who's been there a couple of seasons now, the
Yeah, I love
Brazilian,
Murillo.
like he looks fantastic. Olaina as well, the Chelsea
Yeah,
academy guy who went out to Torino and then, you know, came back here. I mean, just great goal that he scored from the back, and
banger.
yeah, just the midfield is busy as well. They picked up players who didn't quite make the cut at the bigger clubs. You know, Elanga didn't quite cut it with you guys. Hudson-Odoi didn't quite cut it at Chelsea, and they got
And
those
they're and
guys.
they're and they're they're above the table from the
Mm,
teams that they couldn't cut it with, and those teams
yeah,
were supposed to be top table teams, and now Forest has taken these discards from these top table teams,
mm,
and they're in. And I know it's just 10 games, 10 games in, but you know,
yeah. But they you know they got that pace. They run at people. They're perfect players for Nuno's system. You know, hitting teams on the counter, and Gibbs White as well. I think is a fantastic player.
oh
He's so
man,
busy. He just does everything. And then, like you say, they got Wood up top. Just, I mean, I keep resisting the urge to put him in my fantasy team because I'm like, he can't keep doing this. He can't keep this form up. And then just every week he goes and sticks another goal in. It's crazy. And another player I really like who deserves a shout. He didn't start this game, but he came off the bench. Is Elliot Anderson, who they signed from Newcastle, the young midfielder, because he's looked really good whenever he stepped in for them as well. So yeah, they've put together. You know, they've quietly done their business and put together a really cohesive team who are built to play the way Nuno wants to play. So yeah, it's looking great for them right now.
yeah, they're dope, man, and you know, I hope they don't stay at the top of the table because I need my team to get up there. It's going to be almost impossible. But what Forest did was they hired a coach that has experience in the league that plays the same way you need a team like that to play. And that's the way they were being played anyway, but he's just better at it than the coaches that came in before. And the players are seasoned now, they're comfortable, and those fans are backing them because this is Nottingham Forest. They ain't been in the Premier League. This is what, their second or third season? Is it their second season, third coach, or third season? It's third season in the Prem and third coach, or second coach. Second coach
I'm trying
because
to think because Steve Cooper brought them up.
and then he lasted till the almost the end of the season, and they felt like they was going to get relegated, and then they brought in Nuno.
Yeah.
All right, so second season, second coach, third season, beginning of the
Mm.
third season, yeah. But Nuno, yeah. So it's pretty impressive, and I've watched their games, and you know, teams that just sat back and countered back in the day would just be taking a battering,
Mm.
and they probably still lose the game. At some point, a goal will go in, but they, without possession, look calm. It's not a panicky thing. They're not just getting taking punches in the face until they get their one punch off. They're blocking, they're parrying, and they play good football when they do get the football, and they're great without it. So yeah, it's an exciting, non-exciting team, and good for them to be third. Those fans must be like, what just happened? You know, how are we here but enjoying it? And fourth in the table is Chelsea. And guess who Chelsea played this week? Hot ass Chelsea comes strolling up to Old Trafford. Like I said, this week they fired Ten Hag. The next day they hired Almiron, and then we have Rude, club legend, as our interim coach. So we have three coaches in 1 week. That's the chaos that we have. The only thing we have going for us is we're home. We also don't have a lot of depth. We have a lot of injury. We have the same situation as last season. Now, this is one thing I want to say. I didn't get a chance to like say goodbye to Ten Hag. So Ten Hag, thank you for everything you did. 70 wins, 38 losses, the rest are ties. It's not a tragic record. 3 finals, 2 trophies. It's just when you're at the top, when you're Man United, they want more. And he's gone now, but there's always something in me that makes me feel like he could have turned this around. But we'll never know. We'll never know. And that might be stupid, but it just is what it is. Because even the way we played Chelsea today would have been the way that we would have played them if he was there, and we'd have outchanced them, which we did. Garnacho had more chances, legit chances, than the entire Chelsea team today. So just jumping into the game a little bit, like Chelsea, we silenced Cole Palmer, we silenced Nicholas Jackson, we silenced Mbeuke. We didn't play great, but defensively and in the midfield, it got scrappy in the middle of the game. But I understand it because you got both midfields fighting for possession. Lavia, who plays in place of Enzo because he's just better. It's just straight up, he's just better for Chelsea. He's a better player. And I'm glad Maresca's like, hey, man, I know you want me to make Enzo the captain and start him, but this dude is better, so let me play him. He's press resistant. Well, guess what? He wasn't that press resistant today. So I want to give our midfield, I've watched some of the other Man United platforms and channels, and they've been killing the midfield today. But it's Man United fans, if you don't win, it's a tragedy or the team played bad. But not when you like hold a good team down and shut down. Like everybody's talking about Cole Palmer. There's nothing for Cole Palmer or a fan of Cole Palmer for anybody to say, look what Cole Palmer did today. Like we stopped that. You know what I mean? And sometimes to stop that shit, you're going to look bad, period. Now, we could have held on to the ball more, made better passes at times. Højlund had a good and a terrible game at the same time because he won the penalty. Bruno Fernandes definitely had a terrible game and a good game. He'd make 5 bad passes and then string through 3 good ones and create some chances. And then he missed what could have been a wonder goal at the end for the win when he just cleared it into the leaking roof like he was a defender. So there's that. So I don't want to, and I want to give Mazraoui's props, like he balled his ass off. And Caicedo finally showing the most expensive player in, because my homeboy Francisco hit me up and was like, yeah, Caicedo came through. He said, bro, he's the most expensive player in Premier League history. He should do something. He should score a goal like that. That's the least he could do. So yeah, it was a banger. It was perfect. And there's nothing our goalkeeper could do. But now we have a new coach. I have no clue how we're going to play a 3-4-3. I'd have to see it to guess it. Like there's going to be some key players get left out. It feels like there's going to have players that just won't fit. And this ain't the time to be forcing players to do shit that they can't do or don't want to do. We have to get this right. Hopefully this coach has the tactical ability of Ten Hag, but more charisma and more warmth, like you mentioned earlier, so he can like fire up the players, a one-on-one management to motivate people to play for you. Because today, what I did like, and why the game was so scrappy is because both games that these players have played since Ten Hag has left, they've played for rude. Like you could see the fight. So once I see some fight, I'm good. Now, let's see that fight. Amaron, if you can like make this fight on a game-to-game basis, whether they understand the system or not, you will win some shit. And the fans will be behind you, behind the team, until you can tailor this thing more to what you want. So, Man United, it's just been a long week. I ain't in love with the new coach, and I ain't not in love with him. I don't be like rebounding like that. You know what I'm saying? I was just in a 2-year, 10-game relationship with Ten Hag, and I'm not even being loyal. I just need to see what that Almiron do before I'm like, yes, this is the one. Because I was really all in Ten Hag and his first press conferences and what he said, and and I also don't like how disastrous his 2-year thing because people say, because they want it to be bad, the pundits like, he was there 3 years. Bro, it's 2 years. Calm down. It's 2 years. This is the beginning of the 3rd season. It's 2 years. But if you're lying, that means you don't believe what you're saying. And it's like, hey man, 70 wins. 70 wins. That's all I have to say about Man United. And Chelsea, they look great. Maresca seems like, and it's his first season in the Premier League as a head coach. He's 4th. So all the coaches, except Nuno and Man City, but 3 of the coaches, is it 3 coaches in the top 4? It's their first, am I right? Season as head coaches in the Prem. It's the Chelsea, not New Chelsea, Liverpool. Let me see. Man City.
Nah, Nuno joined last season.
But he's been.
It's his first full season in charge. First season starting a season.
Right. So Chelsea's coach, first time as a head coach in the Prem, and so is Slot from Liverpool. So that's, that shows that this could work out for Almiron if everything is right, which it ain't at United, but let's give him a chance. I ain't going to be like, forget Ten Hag ever existed. I'm all in on Almiron, but I will give him a chance. I ain't going to be like fickle, I'm loyal. So what do you think about these 2 teams?
I mean, yeah, I spoke a bit about Amorim earlier and what he could bring. And yeah, it was an interesting game, this one. I thought, like, first half, you both had like that one big chance each. They had the one with the corner when Madueke headed it off the post.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had that one where Bruno Fernandes just picked out that peach of a pass over the defense to Rashford at the far post, who he kind of, like, he looked so like calm the way he executed it, but then like it needed a bit more composure to like actually hit the target. So it's obviously crashed off the bar and gone up. And then, yeah, like second half was, still quite a frantic game, and the 2 teams got their goals. When you said you kept Cole Palmer quiet, it's because Martinez tried to take his kneecap off.
That was later.
I know, I'm kidding.
and that was the right moment to try to, because he was going to be gone. So yeah.
Martinez is an interesting one, actually. It'd be interesting to see if he's like the left of the back 3, if Amorim does try and play a back 3, because he's kind of made for that role.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be good for him. And yeah, like Lavia, every time I watch him play, I enjoy watching him because I got to enjoy him as a Southampton player, and I've been waiting for him to make that step up at a bigger club, and he's starting to stay injury free now. Hopefully that's the case going forward.
How was he today? Do you think, how was he today? Was he the Lavia we've been seeing in the past few weeks, or?
Oh no, you guys did a good job. You knew they wanted to play through that centre midfield. That's what Maresca's style is. He wants to go through those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you did a good job there, I thought. And it's
I ain't hear Nicholas Jackson's name once today. I ain't hear Ndweke once. I think I saw Cole Palmer when they started the game, and well, go ahead, sir. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, the last few weeks, Casemiro's looked like he's got his head back on as well. Like, he played great against Leicester midweek, chipping in with a couple of goals in the Carabao Cup, and I thought he was pretty solid today. Just locking that midfield down and doing the things that he does. Whether or not Amorim can keep getting out of him, because you guys got options there. Amorim managed Ugarte at Sporting before he went to PSG, so
yeah,
he knows him, and yeah. So you got options in that centre midfield position. That Eriksen can play deeper if you're trying to play the ball through the midfield as well, and obviously Mainu too. Like you got options there, and
Mount.
also probably just a moment to give a quick shout out to McTominay balling out. Speaking of Man United centre midfielders, for Napoli right now, just looking like the player that he.
What did he do this? What did he do this week?
Oh, not this week. I think it's over the last week when they played midweek against Milan in the cup, and he was just running through that midfield, just taking people on, and he's been scoring goals out there as well. He's and Billy Gilmore too. We're talking ex Chelsea and ex Man United. So Gilmore and McTominay are both doing great.
Props to McTominay. Definitely an easy league, or else where was that here? where was that here? And I'm glad he got out and he's seeing new life. Good for him. But where was that? He couldn't feel that composure at United. I saw him salad somebody, like not make somebody in the Italian league, and somebody grab on his jersey. He's looking like Maradona out there.
That's because he's playing for Conte, and he's scared of getting absolutely chewed out if he does anything wrong. But no, he's had a new lease of life. But no, you guys, it'd be interesting to see what Amorim changes, what he keeps the same. Because apparently the formation thing for him is like a real strict thing as well. Like every club he's been at, Casapia, Braga, Sporting Lisbon, that's been his system every single time, and he hasn't really sort of flexed on that at all, like budged on it. It's always been, rigid. This is what I do. So, and the fact that he's bringing like all his staff with him as well, these are all guys who are gonna know how to coach that system. I'm interested to see what happens with Ruud, because he said he wants to stay and he wants to contribute. But if I was Amorim, I wouldn't want him around.
Right.
Not saying he's a bad guy or disrespect him what he's done for the club, but he's been a number one. He said United was the only club he would be a number two at. And you look at the way the fans like taken to him as well. Like the chants every time he walks out. The whole stadium's like, and I just think, it's sad that his spell back at the club is going to be short, but you got a clean house, I think, in this situation. Some pundits might come out and go, oh, you need someone that knows the club and blah 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 blah, but I just think he's too big of a figure to be a number two again in a new setup. I can just picture like the office at the training ground. There's just these four guys all talking Portuguese to each other. Van Nistelrooy just sat in the corner. I just can't see it working if he stays.
Ruud might have played in a Portuguese team. I'm not sure. I think he did play in the league.
He played for Malaga in Spain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but Europeans know a lot of languages, but maybe he doesn't know Portuguese. I'm torn because I feel like you do need some type of bridge / conduit to like tell you what's what with the players that are there. If you're a new coach coming in, I think one of the biggest mistakes Ten Hag made was saying, "Nah, man, I don't need Ragnick," and they just spoke on the phone and not like, because Ragnick was supposed to be the start of having the technical director of football and players, and Ragnick knows a lot about players. He's responsible for the success in recent football history of so many top players. And it's like, Ten Hag was like, nah. And then he failed. And somebody mentioned earlier, Moyes failed because he let everybody go from before when he came to United, and he didn't want to hear it from anybody. So I think I would take 6 months from Ruud. If they could, if not the year, but and I'm torn because of everything you said. I get it, I get it. Like they were yelling Ruud. They weren't booing Ten Hag, but they were yelling Ruud when Ten Hag was there to kind of say, we're booing you. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all. That's what that meant. So yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what they do. Just because I think it's a delicate situation. But yeah, personally, if I was Amorim, I wouldn't want someone with that aura and that kind of thing, because if you're thinking like, okay, if he doesn't quite agree with everything I want to do, is he going to be undermining that, you know? And I don't know. For me, I because you talk about, you know, I think the situation with Ten Hag and Ranić was a little bit different because that was above him, and you know he's got that now. He's got that with Ashworth and Wilcox and Barada, all of these guys there. So that structure's there, and that was one of the interesting things about the announcement as
But
well.
they're
That it was
so
United's
new.
first. It was United's head coach,
Yeah, yeah.
not manager. You're the head coach,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I just think if you're coming in with your whole team of
Mm-hmm.
staff as well, you've got your guys, and if that's the dynamic that was working at Sporting,
No,
is that dynamic going to get messed with if you have someone completely different who you don't know in there?
you need an informer. You need someone on the inside that's not a player that can tell you about the players. You know what I mean? To say, this is why this didn't work. This is what I might. You know what I mean? It's
Hey, leave a
just.
handover email.
You think Ten Hag's going to send an email explaining?
No, Rude
Rob,
can.
Rude can.
Yeah, Rude could just jot
Hilarious.
it all down. Leave a little note on the desk.
You know, you was talking about Brighton Hove earlier, and I remember when Brighton Hove fired, was it Chris Hughton?
Mm.
And they decided, hey, we're going to play a different style of football. And the first 2 years with Potter, they kind of stunk. And then there was 1 year where they didn't stink, but they were creating chances and they weren't scoring. But it's because now they could finally, they've found, now they knew the style, but they didn't have finishing for whatever reason. And I feel like we are Brighton Hove from back then. The only problem is we're Man United, and you can't be where Brighton Hove is in the table, which is considered successful for them, or it's considered a failure. And I feel like even with the game today, like Amarin has to figure out how do we make these three guys score, because we're not scoring. I don't know if the system sounds defensively better, but I don't. How are you going to make Garnacho's so young? He's got so much to learn. Definitely got super potential. How are you going to make him score? Rashford, how are you going to get him back on track? And and then when you're not using Garnacho, Ahmad, who's still young, he's only got championship really experience to lean on. How are you going to get him scoring? Like Xerxes, like our front players, or you know how long it takes to be a good center forward. Like we don't have that. We don't even have a Chris Wood there. You know what I mean? So I don't think we're as bad as everybody's saying, but what we need to do is learn how to put away some of these chances. It can't be as frequently as it's been, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about finding a goal scorer or finding the goals in the team, and he's done that at Sporting. Though, like you look at the record of Kasper Gyökeres, who probably not pronouncing that right, the Swedish guy they signed from Coventry in the Championship.
Damn.
And he's scored like 40 something goals for Sporting since he's been there. That his record's unbelievable. I mean, admittedly, it's in the Portuguese league, but he scored in the big games for them, and he scored in Europe for them as well. And he's, you know, he's a player who came from the Championship, and he's, you know, he's doing it on a high level for them. So, you know, he helped unlock something in him, and you know, can he do that for your players? I mean, time will tell. It's, but I mean, the tools are there. I think there's ability in that squad. It's just getting it to click, and you know, who knows? We've not seen them in this system before, so maybe that'll be the key to it.
Right. And before I move on to Arsenal and where they are in the table, I want to give Ugarte props. I thought he also played well today too. So Arsenal is fifth in the table. They're out of the top four. They've basically blown it. There's no chance, no way, and I'm just kidding, that they can win the title. They can. I would never write them off, but this is so hysterical. Arsenal fans deserve this. Newcastle beat their ass. And I should have talked more about this game last week. I don't know why I didn't, but before the game started, a few days before, I said, oh, Arsenal's not going to win this game. because Newcastle lost their last Premier League game. Then they won midweek. And it was the midweek pre-game speech that let me know they weren't going to win this game. It was a game that Newcastle had midweek, and the speech, the pre-game speech for that Eddie Howe was like, the reason why they lost that last Premier League game is the intensity levels are down and it's unacceptable for Newcastle standards. And I knew immediately that, oh, Newcastle's going to step it up. And they did win midweek, right? And then I was like, oh, so they're not going to just stop there. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly what to focus on. Eddie Howe's a good coach, and Arsenal doesn't have their locksmith with them. And they've been struggling, to create as much without Odegaard. Saka's back, yeah, that helps, but they're just a right-sided team, and I don't know, that Odegaard thing really has thrown them. And I was like, Newcastle is just too determined. Like, when a team can score and they can low block you at the same time, good luck. Like this, so I just felt like Newcastle was going to win this game, and they did 1-0. And they've knocked Arsenal out of the top 4. Arsenal has had an unexpected, unwanted run of dropping points, and they're not the Arsenal from last season. But I do want to rub in that you have an injury, and you have had other injuries too, but I like how everybody dismisses when United has injuries, and like, injuries do affect you. I remember when Saliba got injured, that first title run of theirs, all Arsenal fans said was, we didn't choke. Saliba got injured. One guy, cost you the title. So it's like, United had so many defenders missing last year, but no pundit ever brings up the center-back combination, the 30-something center-back combinations, or the midfield injuries. They just said Ten Hag stinks, and Arsenal's missing one guy, and everybody's making an excuse for them. And props to Newcastle. They just stopped Arsenal from doing what they normally do, and they put in a shift and a half, and Isak got that ball. That was one of the most perfect crosses I've ever seen. His jump was timed perfectly, and the placing and the pace of that ball guaranteed that, is it Raya? Did not stand a chance. And then they just shut it down. They turned all the lights off, and untied the laces on Arsenal players' boots and just dug in. Joe Linton, I don't know how he's not starting for Brazil. Like, what does he have to do to even be on the Brazil roster? It's crazy. It's crazy. His homie Guimaraes is on it, but he ain't on it. Like, it's just ridiculous. Gordon, just hardworking. And yeah, man, that team was like, hey, man, we've lost too much already this year. We're at home. We're not losing this. And Arsenal stepped into it. They stepped into trouble. Next week, they got Chelsea. Arsenal schedule, to be honest, for somehow seems tougher than everybody else's in the same league. And maybe that's just me. And maybe some of the combination of their Champions League games, and maybe there's an easy run coming for them where they can get back into this thing and shut people up. But yeah, Arsenal and Newcastle and their places in the table. Newcastle's 10th.
Yeah, I mean, like Newcastle, like you say, they've been stuttering a little bit, and then they played against the Chelsea B team in the Carabao Cup and handed them their asses.
And can I just say something? And it's based off, I forgot to say this, and Newcastle, you owe us, Man United, for that win also. Because, like, we before we played Chelsea today, we already cost them a game, because midweek they didn't want to put Cole Palmer in because they were saving him for this weekend to do nothing against us. So we took him out of that game and we lost. and we came and played us, and we took him out of that. So put some respect on United. Sorry, bro.
Nah, I'm not giving you credit for that.
Why not? They didn't
because
play him. Why didn't they play him? Because they knew they had to play us. That's why they
they've
didn't
been
play him.
no, they've been doing that in all their cup games because they have to. They've got a squad of 50 players, and they have to give them games.
I thought it was 60, but fine. You want to cut it down to 50? Do what you got to do.
But yeah, I mean, I sat and watched this game because it was like the early kickoff.
Mhm.
It was like the lunchtime game here, and yeah, from the first few minutes, I could tell which way it was going because Newcastle, like I said, they've been stuttering recently, but this was like you can just tell when Newcastle are at home and they're feeling it because the players will just run that little bit harder. They get in people's faces. They want to get the ball forwards quickly. They want to get it out wide to Gordon. You know, they want to get it outside to Willock as well, and yeah,
he was
just
out for
causing
revenge. Willock, he's like, "Oh, you
yeah,
got rid of me? All right, I can run. This is
yeah,
what you need. I'm what you need right now."
and like you say, Joe Linton was just a monster in there. Longstaff, I thought had a really good game as well. He's a player who, like, I could never quite figure him out.
Yeah,
Like, is he, you know, right for this level of team or not? But he had one of his good games, and yeah, just Arsenal, there's something dysfunctional about them right now. I don't know if it's like Arteta's just like I know a lot of Arsenal fans, and they are all miserable right now. They're not enjoying what's happening, and you know, I even treated myself after this game to a little bit of Arsenal fan TV.
Yeah.
And they're calling Arteta out, some of them already, which is it's delicious.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's just hilarious. It's, you know, it's just we're getting back to the old Wenger out days. This is just I just find it's just bizarre though the way Arteta's trying to play with, you know, just playing all centre backs across the back four, or like Partey as a fullback, and but he's bought these players, so you know he's the one who's decided not to buy proper fullbacks, and just like you said, it shows how key Odegaard is for them and how much goes through him and how much he conducts the the direction of the attacks through that midfield. And you know, like you say, Saka's a weapon for them, but now teams know that if they shut that down and they double up on him and they stop him from coming in off the right wing onto his left foot, it's like it's actually, you know, you can take their main threat out of it by doing that. And you know, Havertz went missing in this game as well. I know he's had some good games from this season, but he was anonymous in this one.
I'm trying to bring up the lineup as I listen to you for Arsenal.
It won't. I think it was like Timber was left back, Partey was right back, Saliba and Gabriel in the middle. Centre midfield was it Jorginho and Rice?
They played Partey as a right back, and he did do a good job, but why not start White? I don't know if that was an injury thing. Like, he's their guy. He's their right back. He's been perfect for them. He ain't playing international games, so if he's fully fit, why didn't he start? He came in late, and him and Saka have a great relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about.
It was Marino in the middle with Rice. But yeah, they had Zinchenko and White on the bench, who, you know, both can play there.
And Trossard was the 10. And then the only other option as 10 is this kid that they put in, which is like, this is too much of a game for this kid to really do or show what he's going to potentially be in it. He's like their only other close to 10. Nwaneri, yeah. I was afraid to say his name, so I'm glad you said it. Mourinho, he's probably going to be great. And I say great because I mean it, but he's new to the Prem, you know? And he just got to the team. He was injured at first, so this is a difficult period, and Arteta has to reset himself and figure out how to do this to prove that he belongs there.
Yeah, this, like I say, it's some soul searching time, I think, there. I don't know how long Odegaard's going to be out for, but yeah, they need to pray that ankle heels quick. But I don't know if Arteta needs to think of, a different approach maybe. Because I don't know what's gone. Like Arsenal, I think there was a point where they were playing some nice free flowing football, and it just seems to have like just drained out of them. And I don't know what's going on there. It's something's not right.
They had a bunch of mishaps, to be fair. Like 3 games in a row, they got reds, or at least 4 of 3 games. So the Man City game, into Arsenal's defense, they went to City and went at City and went up 2-1, then got the card. So then they had to defend. Then Brighton happened. So then they had to defend because Brighton, we just talked about them. They're a difficult team. They're pushing for the top of the league. You were at their home. So then you had to defend. Then the Bournemouth game, they lost a man, but they didn't defend, but they lost that. But they should have showed Bournemouth more respect, and Bournemouth let them know what time it is. So then I think Liverpool last week, maybe they were a little cautious because they at Anfield. So it looks like, because I hear the pundit saying, Arsenal is just Arteta's Mourinho now. And it's like, it's not fair. It's funny. But it's like, who's everybody's saying he's this offensive coach, but all he's doing is defending. It's like, it's not really true. It's just the circumstances of certain games all in a row have caused them, with no Odegaard, to like, let's try to be more defensive and win the game Mourinho style. But when Odegaard comes back, they're not going to play like that, But it's funny. Their next game is Chelsea. It's probably the game of the week, so we could talk about that. What's your feels on that?
I mean, where's it at as well?
Chelsea. Sunday. Last game before the international break.
I mean, you got a fancy Chelsea at home, but the Premier League is so weird. And when a team has like their backs to the wall and they've gone on this run, and people are like, nah, they're washed, they just turn around and put out a performance. So I don't even want to call this one. I've got no idea which way this is going to go. And like I say, Arteta seems to like that sort of that solid double pivot in there now with Rice and Marino, and that could do what you guys did against Parma this week and shut that down. So that'll be an interesting part of the field to watch in this game, whether or not they can stifle that creativity from Chelsea, the same way that you guys did, the same way that Liverpool did at Anfield as well. Liverpool did a number on them there. So I don't know if Arteta's going to be studying those tapes, or if he's just going to get them in the changing room with a light bulb, or hire some pickpockets. I don't know what he's doing. But I'll be studying the tapes of how you guys and how Liverpool shut that part of the field down and stopped stuff going through Parma. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see which way this game goes, and I don't want to call it.
I just know, I don't know the score, but I know if they tie again, when you need 90 points to win the league. So here's the weird thing about Arsenal this weekend. They lost. So they're like, shit, we lost. It's going to be so much harder for us to win the league. And then Man City loses. And then you're like, well, hey, Man City lost 2. So even though we lost, we won. But then when you look at the 3 points that they could have got, that they dropped to help them fend off Man City towards the end of the season, it's like 2 losses and a win in one weekend of 2 games. So it's like, yeah, Man City lost 2, so that helps. But those 3 points that you don't have, that's a big loss, because if Man City does pick it up, which this might be the year they don't pick it up, because Rodri's not going to be there at any point this year. I don't forgot De Bruyne is on their team. I don't know how injured he is. I see I said his name and it's just like, oh yeah, they got a De Bruyne, so. And what if Haaland gets injured for Man City at some point? At least a few games. Like, so I feel like all the teams are still in this. Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea's in the top 4 with a tie. So we'll see. I think, I just know the repercussions are going to reverberate if Arsenal drops points.
Oh, yeah.
And I will be watching Arsenal TV 100%. That's my thoughts on this game. Villa and Villa 6, Tottenham 7th. They played. You want to have fun talking about?
No,
well, there is no fun.
no. Yeah, zero fun for me talking about a Spurs win.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Villa go 1-0 up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was rubbing my hands. I was like, here we go. This is what I want. And yeah, I saw one go back in. I was like, oh, no, Spurs are going to turn this around. I mean, to be fair, even like the was it Rodgers who scored for
Rodgers
for Villa? Like, even that goal was like against the run of play. It felt like they sort of pinched that one off them, and then yeah, I mean, this new system that Andrew's got with Kulusevski playing a bit more, in the middle of the field, he's causing problems. So having some back as well was big for them. And that assist for the was it Brendan Johnson's goal he assisted, was that ball in was just really, really nice. And
yeah,
Solanke just did the job that you would want an expensive striker to do in this game as well. He was in there, in the box doing what you want a striker to do. Good finishes. Right. I think Ange learned his lesson as well from just playing one CDM as well, and he put Sarr and Bentancur in there together, and I think that gave them a little bit more of a solid structure too. Still, I mean, going back to the Rodgers goal for Villa, though, it still showed where that weakness is for Spurs. Yeah. Just Vicario, get that ball, whip it in on the corners into the 6-yard box. Vicario is not going to do anything. He's not going to come for anything.
They've let in 30 set piece goals since Ange been there. What does he have to do to stop that? That's a crazy amount, right?
It's a lot. And I mean, I'm going to give Spurs some credit though in terms of coping without Van de Ven, because that's a big player to be missing out your back line, especially when you're playing a team with the speed of Villa. With like Rodgers and Ramsey and Watkins in there, and the players they can bring off the bench as well. To bring Dragusin in and only concede one goal and you scored 4 down the other end. That's pretty good going from them. And just a solid, rampant home performance from Spurs once they got going and once they dust themselves off after conceding that goal. Be interesting to see how Villa take this, because I think this is probably the worst beating they've had in a little while. Most things have been going well for them.
Spurs beat them like this last year. I forgot where, but they did beat them like this last year. I don't know if it was home or away.
Maybe it will spur them on a bit. Excuse the pun. But they've been having such a good season. I think their fans needed a little reality check. Right. They've been winning these Champions League games unbeaten, beating Bayern and stuff, and running amok in the table and winning league games. So it's like football. Football can't let you have everything. It's got to humble you once in a while. Or most weeks in my case, but
hilarious.
Yeah, Villa fans just got reminded what it's like to be football fans this weekend.
Hilarious. I spoke to Lloyd, before the podcast. He's a Villa fan, and I was like, because whenever our team has a bad result, you'll call, but it's just to fuck with each other. And he's like, "You okay? You all right?" So I just hit him. "You all right? You good? I'm just making sure you're not near any razor blades or knives or, And he did say, "Hey man, I'm a Villa fan. We've had way more worse losses. We've lost in the championship. So a loss in a top game in the top league after the amount of wins we have in 10 games is nothing big picture wise. But I know you didn't want this anyway, but it was my chance to call him and see if he was okay. So I did enjoy that. But Spurs, Like I mentioned the set piece number, the 30 goals since Ange has been there from his team is letting for. But Tottenham is the leading scoring team in the league. And I think I saw that somewhere. They said it. And that's pretty impressive. So if they could like respect defending a little bit more, they could be how Spurs is going to go is how much Ange learns to respect how important defense is in the Premier League. Like you could attack a little bit less and win more. Because let me see his record. He don't draw. It's 5 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. So he wins
all or nothing,
or he loses. But some of them points from tying it, if some of those losses were ties, you know, 4 more points, you would make you 20 and you'd be, where would you be? You'd be second or third in the league. So he's got to respect the tie more and defense more. And as for Villa, yeah, Lloyd denies that the Champions League is affecting them. But after every midweek game now, at the beginning of the season, the midweek games didn't affect them. But now it's starting to. Like, we played them after the Bayern game. We knew they'd be emotionally drained from the win, and we tied with them. So we made them drop points. And then the last Champions League game, Premier League game they had after the last Champions League game, they dropped points to Bournemouth. And then this one, they had midweek. They
got beat by Palace 2-1.
Carabao Cup, they got beat, and then now they got beat. So it's like, maybe this thing is starting to pile up, But Lloyd said their problem is they need a right back. If they had a right back, they use Cash, but they don't believe in Cash. And then the substitute right back is a center back, Konsa. It doesn't, even saying Konsa as a right back don't even sound right. So I get it. So they need a better right back. And he said that would fix most of everything. So we'll see. But next week, before the international break, another game we could just talk about before we go to the fantasy league is Liverpool Villa. That's a big game. It's at Anfield. What's your thoughts on Liverpool versus Villa?
I mean, the way the form's going at the moment, you've got to back Liverpool. But yeah, like I say before, like sometimes you think a team is on a bad run and all of a sudden they'll come and turn it around. And I think, Emery's he's a smart guy. He's a smart coach. And, I think he'll maybe go there to maybe play a bit more of a counter-attacking game. And they've got the players who can do that. Watkins can run in there and, I said about the pace they've got in their team. So it'd be an interesting battle, that one. And yeah, like I said, I think Liverpool should win at home, but the Villa have definitely got the weapons to hurt them if they're back on form.
Right. This is going to be a cagey affair. Like, so cagey, they should just put an octagon around the pitch. like you were saying, like Aston Villa, they need to win something. So let's not lose it. So let's be defensive. Let's counter. And Liverpool, they're already kind of doing that. They still attack you, but a lot more careful than they used to do on the clock. So, like Liverpool used to lose the ball just to win it back in a position that's advantageous to them so that they could score on you. But now it's like, before we even attack, let a gentleman in the back, are you all set up? Okay, now we can continue with our attack. So, like offensively, who do you think is better? Like the front 3, potential front 5 of Liverpool, or the Villas, like Duran, Ollie combination, which they played both at some point. They didn't take Ollie out the game to put Duran in this week. They played them both.
I'm saying Liverpool.
Yeah, at home too.
Yeah, even without Jota, because I like Jota. I think he's clinical. But yeah, like Salah, Gakpo, Nunez, Diaz, like they got options still.
And what about midfield? Because you're talking about Gravenbach. We're talking about the Argentinian. I can't remember his name. Right? Got McAllister. Yeah. Endo came in a little bit today. Yeah. And who else? They got Sobolai. And they played Endo, so they're starting to work him in. Elliott, I haven't seen him around, but he's a good 10. But Liverpool don't really play no Sobolai. I guess is their 10. But they have people there. They lost Konate. Is it Konate? I don't know how bad that. Yeah. Konate. I don't know about the injuries, but Gomez came in and stepped in and played.
Yeah.
And played. So let's see. I don't think their defense is any worse than Villa's, and they're at home. So just even going through it like that, this could be another devastating point dropping session for Villa this weekend. And we talked about all 20 teams, but I'll just say the other positions of the other teams, and then we could go to Fantasy League. So Tottenham is seventh with 14 points. We talked about Brighton Hove. They're 8th with 16 points. Bournemouth is 9th with 15 points. Newcastle is 10th with 15. Did we talk about Brentford? Did they play?
They're playing Fulham tomorrow. Yeah,
that's what it is. So Brentford is 11th with 13, and right behind them is Fulham with 12. Man United is 13th with 12 points. We don't even have the amount of points of the place we're in. That's Jesus Christ. West Ham, they're in 14th with 11 points. They're just getting their ass whooped all over the place. Leicester, I feel like we didn't talk about Leicester.
No, they played Ipswich, 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw.
But there wasn't much going on there. It was a scrappy game.
Yeah. So they're 15th with 10. Everton, 16th. They lost to you guys. Everton. So they have 9 points. Crystal Palace, 17th place with 7 points.
Ipswich. That crazy draw with Wolves.
Yeah. 2-2, right? Good game. It's a good game with bad teams.
Yeah. It was that one where they were behind Wolves and the whole stadium are chanting, "You don't know what you're doing," to Gary O'Neill, and then he makes some subs and then they go 2-1 up.
I think that's funny. I like him. He's one of the few English coaches in the league. Your coach is one of the few English coaches in the league. Who else is the other English? But they're struggling. Ipswich, English coach.
Our coach officially goes down as Scottish.
Man.
He was born in England. He's from Brighton, but he played internationally for Scotland. So yeah, he goes down with the little flag next to him as Scottish.
We got a Lee Carsley situation going on here. And Crystal Palace coach, he's German, right?
I think Austrian. I think
Austrian. Yeah, he has like a German accent, so he's Austrian. Yeah.
Yeah, but he coached in Germany. Yeah.
So Southampton, 19th, middle of the bottom 3 with 4 points. But listen, man, you're gonna have to go through this to, get some points other places. Who are your next games? Let me see.
We got Wolves next.
Okay, so that's the bottom of the table. You got a bottom of the Wolves there in 20th place with 3 points.
Yeah, but then our run of games after the international break is brutal. So we come back from the international break, we got Liverpool. The week after that, we got Brighton.
Damn.
The week after that, we got Chelsea.
Damn.
The week after that, we got Villa.
Damn.
And I think the week after Villa, we got Spurs.
Damn. You know what that means? You better beat Wolves.
we better. Yeah.
You better beat Wolves. All right, what's going on in fantasy? Even though this
I fucked up in fantasy this week.
Come on.
Yeah, I put Semenyo on my bench because I've had him in my team. I've had him in my team for ages, and I was like, they're playing Man City.
Right.
I've got better options in my team, and all my midfielders did enough. I've still got Mbeumo to play, so he might bail me out against Fulham. But yeah, I benched Semenyo. He got 10 points. I benched Ramsdale. I put Ederson. I put all my chips in basically for Man City beating Bournemouth because I had Ederson in goal. He didn't keep a clean sheet. I had Haaland captain, didn't score. I put Semenyo on my bench. He scored 10 points. Because I had Edison in, I had Ramsdale on my bench, and he got 9 points for keeping a clean sheet against Everton. Shout out to Ramsdale as well. He had a great game for
Oh
us.
yeah, yeah,
He
man.
was he was doing some shit housing as well in this game. He was he was doing a lot. The only player that really scored me any points this week was Murillo. He got a clean sheet for Forest. So I've got him in there, but I've got Vandenberg at the back for Brentford and Mbumo for Brentford still to play. But yeah, I scored low this week.
How much?
Martin scored. Luckily, Martin scored low as well. So
Oh, okay.
we're on similar points. So yeah, he's gone down. I've gone down in the table. No changes at the top though. Brian Avina is he's still out there leading. No one really had great weeks this week though, to be fair. But yeah, Brian's still top. Ahmad Zekri's still second. Joey Duda still third. So
Oh, Joey's doing good.
Yeah, no movement in the top three. But yeah, my points suck. I need Mbumo to go and bang a hat trick against Fulham.
Just want to
try and save my week.
Please, come on, Mbumu. Is it Mbumu? That's who you got? Come on, come through. There's some. I just realized how there's some interesting matches in Champions League on Tuesday. Real versus Milan. You know, those are two marquee names in European football. But I think Real Madrid is stronger. But you know, we'll see what happens with that. And Leverkusen versus Liverpool, because Leverkusen is being coached by Xabi Alonso, right? And Xabi Alonso was also linked with the Liverpool job, and he stayed. You know, they're the German champions versus Liverpool, who were champions. So that's very interesting. Sporting versus Man City is super interesting because Man United's new coach, signed, sealed, delivered, is going to be coaching one of his last games for Sporting before he comes to us. He played, so he's signed. He's our coach, but he's still with Sporting. I like that Sporting was smart enough to put like a 30-day, you can't leave us 30-day thing, just so that they could like get their ducks in a row. Like they know they're going to lose the coach. They have the buyout clause, but also like a 30-day clause. You can't just bounce on us. But what I do like about this is he's coached 2 games since the rumors started, which turned into fact pretty quick, and he's won. So he's making his players still play for him, our potential coach, even though they know he's gone. So I think that's a hope. Like you still inspired people who shouldn't be inspired because you're not going to be their coach in 3 games. So I like that. So, and we want to see how he can handle Premier League teams. So even though it's Champions League, he's playing a Premier League team, the top Premier League team. So it's like, let's see if, and like you mentioned earlier, we'll see if the 3-4-3, how it works against a Man City, you know. I think he's going to drop back. It's going to be more like a 5-5, you know, or 5-4-1. I don't know what the math is, but yeah.
Arsenal versus Inter as well.
Yeah. And PSG versus Athletic Madrid.
But yeah, Inter are solid. They could really pile some more pressure on Arteta, even before that big game with Chelsea at the weekend. So the big games don't stop for Arsenal. They're getting pummeled.
Yeah, it seems like their schedule in the Premier League and in the Champions League is, they're getting worn down by opposition after opposition. I hope we face them after like a run like this. I don't know when we get them, but I hope it's like, like they're like breathing with both hands on their knees, you know.
Let's have a quick look at what Amorim's first run of games is after that international break when he comes in.
I think it's an easy run. The first one is Ipswich.
Yeah.
And I don't know, remember after that, but go ahead.
Yeah, Ipswich away. Then you're home in the Europa League to Bodo Glimt from Norway. And then you play Everton at home. And then it's Arsenal, 4th of December. Arsenal at the Emirates. So fourth game. This fourth game will be Arsenal.
Well, I know one thing. We'll know the 4-3-3 more, the 3-4-3 more by that game than we do right now. That's one positive. Yeah. Yeah, man. So yeah, I guess we're done for the podcast for the evening. You got any last rights, thoughts, words?
No, just fuck the international break. I swear they've dropped more in this season. I feel like we get like 2 or 3 games and then there's another one. So yeah, just disrupting that rhythm. But let's see if we can double our points or our win tally before we get to it.
Yeah, the international break feels like we're the break for the international break. Like the Premier League is the one that's interrupting the international break because there's so many international breaks. Like their league is more consistent than ours, So, but yeah, we'll talk more about that next week. But yeah, it does seem like there's way more now than there used to be. We gotta find out if that's true, if they snuck extra international break games in. But yeah, everybody out there, be good to each other. We love you. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, comment, leave your thoughts on whatever platform, whether it be Spotify, Omni Studio, Apple, just wherever, Thanks for listening, and check me out at Ian Edwards Comic on Instagram just to see what dates. Also, my link tree is also in my Twitter. And you got anything you want to tell them? Promote?
Just Lee Hudson Comedy on Instagram. I'm in the semi-final of British Comedian of the Year this Thursday.
Oh shit!
So yeah, if anyone's listening anywhere near London, come to that. I'll post about that on my socials. So yeah.
Oh, dope! You dropped that lore last minute secretly because I did see. So how many people are in this final?
This is semi-final.
Semi-final.
But there's a handful of them. Because I did like there's like a heat and there's tons of those all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
I went and did mine up in Scotland just for I wanted a little trip away.
Mm-hmm.
So I qualified from that one against all the Scottish comedians, which they weren't happy about.
They should have put their work in. That's on them.
Yeah, I went up there. I went in front of their home audience, and there was only 2 comics that went through, and it was me and another English guy, so that didn't go down well. But yeah, I got this one in London. So the finals in Liverpool, if I make it. So, but there's a bunch of semi-finals. So yeah, we'll see.
Also, they got more than 2 semi-finals.
Oh yeah.
Does a semi-final mean 2?
It's only because it's like the 3rd round. Well, it's the 2nd round of 3. Sorry. So after this, there's a final.
Oh,
but like 12 people make the final, so it's like 2 from each semi-final.
Oh, okay. Come on, Lee.
Yeah.
How do people vote? Is it audience or they got judges? What's the deal?
It's audience on the night. So yeah, I won't be taking any friends with me. If I get through, it's on merit.
It's on merit. Yeah, some of those comics are gonna pack the crowd. They don't care about real responses. They just want to win. Yeah. This contest?
If you can bring 20 friends to a show, you're not a comedian. If you haven't alienated all the people that love you, you're not a real comic.
Hilarious. Has any famous people come out of this contest, like British comedians?
Some like not anyone like globally famous, like some really good like English acts or British acts have won it in previous years, and won because the prize is like £10,000, and there's no like barrier. It's not like you have to be a new comic. So like previous years, like 20-year vets have entered it. Oh, because they want to win that 10 grand, because like to almost all comedians in the UK, like 10 grand's a lot of money. There's only a handful of people like Jimmy Carr and Jack Whitehall, who don't need 10 grand.
Right.
So for almost every other comic underneath that, like, yeah. So previous
Hilarious.
years, there has been some big names in it who just wanted to, wanted to flex and win some money.
Hilarious. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. That means it's tight competition. Yeah, that's good.
Mm.
So everybody talk to Lee now before he wins 10 grand. It doesn't come on the podcast anymore. So listen and watch it now. Have a good midweek. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you next weekend. One love, y'all.